Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Deepali Sharma, Assistant Professor of English, Durga Mahavidyalay, Raipur. Today I'm going to discuss Eliot's verse drama, Murder in the Cathedral, which was first performed in 1935. Before we proceed, let me tell you what verse drama is. Any drama written as verse to be spoken, of course in the form of dialogues, is a verse drama. Another possible general term is poetic drama. Eliot revived poetic drama, which in England had been dead or dormant for nearly 3 centuries. Not only this, Eliot returned to the most primitive form, that is the tragedy, on the model of the earlier plays of Aeschylus, in which there is a situation. Thus, Murder in the Cathedral is about a situation and a quality of life. The situation is perpetual and the quality is rare. So, it is evident when the main character, Thomas Becket, says, I quote, I gave my life to the laws of God above, the laws of man, unquote. The tragedy contains history. It sheds light on the antagonism between the forces of virtues and vices, that is good and bad. Through the two characters, the conflict between the king, Henry II, and Thomas Becket, who was a chancellor, and he later on became the Archbishop of Canterbury under Henry II after the death of Theobald in 1162, that is 1162. King Henry II believed in temporal power, but Thomas Becket did not allow himself to be made a king's tool, and he acted independently even at the cost of conflict with the king, which actually forms the main story of the play. As a result of this, he had to leave England and go to France. Now it's almost 7 years, and Becket decides to come back. So, Murder in the Cathedral is a poetic drama. It's a historical play. It's a situation. It's all about the quality of life. It's about spirituality. Now, let us come to the plot of the play. Plot, which we know, is the arrangement of incidents or events. And it is also the soul of tragedy as suggested by Aristotle. Now, the action occurs between 2nd December and 29th December 1170, chronicling the days leading up to the martyrdom of Becket, following the absence of 7 years in France. The play, Murder in the Cathedral, is in 2 acts. It begins with a chorus singing, These are the women of Canterbury, foreshadowing the coming violence. Actually, the chorus is the connecting link between the audience and the other characters in the play, and also with the action in the play. Three priests are present. They reflect on the absence of Becket. As we know, he was in France for almost 7 years. And the rise of temporal power. So these priests, they talk about the absence of Becket and at the same time, rise of temporal power. Then a herald announces Becket's arrival. I quote, 7 years since the Archbishop left us. The women of Canterbury, they're singing and saying, he who was always kind to his people, but it would be well if he should return. King rules or barons rule, we have suffered various oppression. So these women of Canterbury, they were desperate to have Becket back to England. Then the tempters arrive, 3 of whom parallel the temptations of Christ. There are 4 tempters. The first tempter offers the prospect of physical safety, obviously to Becket. He says, turn these stones into bread. And also, the easy man lives to eat the best dinners. He was trying to tempt Becket. The second tempter offers power, riches, and fame in serving the authority, that is, the king. He says, power obtained grows to glory. Power is present, holiness hereafter. Then the third tempter suggests a coalition with the barons and a chance to resist the king. Since Thomas has the backing of Rome, they can end the tyrannous jurisdiction. Then the fourth one urges him to seek the glory of martyrdom. King is forgotten, he says, when another shall come. Saint and martyr rule even from the tomb. And also that the wheel may turn and still be forever still. So these tempters see Becket as obstinate, blind, intent on self-destruction because they could not move or change the mind of Thomas Becket. Becket addresses the immoral suggestions at the end of the first act. And he says, now is my way clear, now is the meaning plain. Temptation shall not come in this kind again. After the first act, or the first part of the play, we have interlude. Interlude is a sermon given by Becket on Christmas morning, 1170. It's about the strange contradiction that Christmas is a day both of mourning and rejoicing, which Christians also do for martyrs. And he announces at the end of the sermon, it is possible that in a short time you may have yet another martyr. So this was an indication from Thomas Becket, an interlude. Also says, a Christian martyrdom is never an accident, for saints are not made by accident. Act 1 takes place on 2nd December 1170 in the Archbishop's Becket's Hall. Act 2. So first we have Act 1, then interlude, and then the final act, which takes place in the Archbishop's Hall and in the Cathedral on 29th December 1170. 4 knights arrive with urgent business from the king. They accuse Becket of betrayal and he claims to be loyal. The priests insist that he leave and protect himself, but he refuses. The chorus sings that they knew the conflict was coming. Thomas is taken to the cathedral where the knights break in and kill him. They said, "We come with the king's justice. We come with swords." Then the chorus laments. Clear the air, clear the sky. The land is foul, the water is foul. Our beasts and ourselves defiled with blood. At the close of the play, the knights step up, address the audience, and defend their actions. So this is all about the plot of the play, which has the 2 acts and an interlude. Now let us see what are the important traits or features of the play. One of the most explicit philosophies Eliot explores is what constitutes a true Christian martyr. As Thomas explains in interlude, a martyr is not merely one who dies for God, but rather one who allows himself to be the instrument of God. And Becket ultimately proved himself to be the instrument of God. Then the question of time runs throughout the entire play, and it is depicted through the change of seasons. For good or ill, let the wheel turn. The wheel has been still these 7 years and no good. These are the words spoken by the priest, the 3rd priest. The wheel, which is an important image, and it suggests that God occupies the central position and we, the human beings, are at the edges. Thomas suggests our lives of suffering and difficulty as illusions, and he says they are all illusions and we overvalue them. We can never understand them, so we should not dwell on them. Instead, we should focus on pleasing God in faith that He knows why and how the wheel turns. The play also highlights politics and the suffering caused due to it in 12th century. Now let us see what kind of man was Thomas Becket. As we see, he is the central figure in the play and the whole story revolves around him. Becket, the Archbishop of Canterbury, former Chancellor of England, stood up against Henry II's demands that the church subsume its authority to Henry's secular power. And Becket ultimately died for the cause. He refused to be merely the puppet in the hands of the higher authority. In the play, he is an overly proud and sanctimonious man who nevertheless transcends his weakness to accept martyrdom as God's will. Here are few important lines that are important to be quoted to know Thomas Becket. They know and do not know what it is to act or suffer. They know and do not know that action is suffering and suffering is action. Here he lays emphasis on two words, action and suffering. Then the real power is purchased at the price of a certain submission. Excellent thought. If we try to see what kind of character is Thomas Becket, then the flaw of pride could be seen in him. The first of his flaws was his want to become a martyr. He wanted to become a supreme spiritual influence. His greatest flaw was pride, as suggested by one of the knights when he said, "This is the creature that crawled upon the king, swollen with blood and swollen with pride." Although tempted with physical pleasures and threatened with physical violence, Thomas remains true to what he sees as the pattern of God's will in his life. Thus, the spiritual life of Becket is stronger than death. The original title for the play was Fear in That Way. And it is evident from the opening choral ode that fear is a constant in the world of the play. Fear of the chorus, fear of the priests. If Thomas comes back, he might be killed. Why did Eliot write this play? Actually, Eliot was commissioned to write a play in response to the rising fascism in Europe. And he decided to write a play based on the real story. That is the conflict between Henry II and Thomas Becket. Thus, Murder in the Cathedral is a poetic drama which is still performed, studied, and regarded as one of Eliot's major works. It's a testament to his skill as a poet and dramatist. So, the questions that might be asked based on Murder in the Cathedral are: number one, Murder in the Cathedral as a poetic drama. Second, character of Thomas Becket. Third, significance of chorus. And as we have seen, that a chorus is the connecting link between the audience, the characters, and the actions in the text. Then the role of tempters, very important. The four tempters that come to tempt or change the mind of Thomas Becket, but they were not successful in doing so. So the role of tempters, very important. Then the four knights, the character of knights, as they try to bring forth the original character of Becket, they try to sum up the personality of Becket. So very important. Then the theme, especially the theme of martyrdom in the play. So, Murder in the Cathedral, it's a poetic drama, it's a historical play. To some extent, it also deals with morality. So it could be seen as a morality play because we see the conflict between the good and the bad. So this is all about Murder in the Cathedral. I hope the plot, the character, the important points are discussed. Thank you.